Picture this. Christmas Eve in Manhattan. Snow falling gently outside a glittering luxury hotel. Inside, a man in a worn janitor's uniform pushes a mop across marble floors, so polished they reflect the twinkling holiday lights above. Guests rush past him without a second glance. He's invisible, forgotten, just another worker keeping the magic alive behind the scenes. But here's what nobody knows. This janitor is worth $3 billion. His name is Alexander Hawthorne, and he owns this entire hotel empire. Tonight, he's not here to check profits or shake hands with VIPs. He's here because something's broken, and the only way to fix it is to disappear into the shadows and see what everyone's been hiding from him. What he discovers will change one woman's life forever and remind us all what Christmas is really about. If you love stories of hidden heroes and unexpected miracles, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss where this goes. Alexander Hawthorne didn't build his empire by accident. 40 years ago, he started with a single rundown motel on the outskirts of Newark. While others saw decay, he saw a possibility. Through grit, vision, and relentless determination, he transformed that crumbling property into the crown jewel of what would become Hawthorne Hotels, a luxury chain spanning 15 major cities. By 65, Alexander had everything. Penthouses overlooking Central Park, a private jet, respect from every corner of the business world. His Manhattan flagship hotel was supposed to be his masterpiece, the culmination of decades of excellence. But lately, something felt wrong. Online reviews were sliding. Guest complaints multiplied. Anonymous posts painted a picture he didn't recognize. Rude staff, ignore requests, a coldness that contradicted everything the Hawthorne brand promised. Alexander raised these concerns during executive meetings, but his hotel manager, Richard, always had smooth explanations. Just disgruntled competitors. Sir, you know how it is. Isolated incidents, nothing systemic. Our metrics show everything's exceptional. Alexander wanted to believe him. Richard had impressive credentials and spoke with unwavering confidence. But decades in business had taught Alexander to trust his instincts, and his instincts were screaming that something wasn't right. The problem was obvious. Nobody tells the truth to the man signing their paychecks. As long as he walked through those doors as Alexander Hawthorne, billionaire owner, he'd only see carefully curated performances, polished smiles, rehearsed excellence. The beautiful lie, he needed the ugly truth. So 3 days before Christmas, Alexander made a decision that would have shocked his board directors speechless. He was going undercover, not as a guest, not as a consultant, but as the most invisible person in any hotel, a janitor. The disguise was simpler than expected. Alexander left his tailored Tom Ford suit in the closet and pulled out faded blue work pants and a plain gray shirt with Alex stitched across the pocket, a uniform purchased from a thrift store in Queens. He added worn sneakers, a baseball cap, and left his Rolex at home, replacing it with a $15 Casio. Looking in the mirror, he barely recognized himself. On December 22nd, Alex clocked in for the evening shift. The HR coordinator barely looked up as she handed him a mop bucket and a punch card. No eye contact, no welcome, just another faceless worker in the machine. Walking into his own lobby felt surreal. This space usually greeted him with reverent attention. Managers rushing over, staff straightening their posture, guests whispering and pointing. But tonight, dressed in that worn uniform, he was a ghost. Guests wheeled luggage past him without acknowledgement. A businessman nearly knocked a mop from his hands while barking into a phone, never breaking stride or offering an apology. A mother pulled her child closer as Alex bent to clean near them, as if poverty might be contagious. The invisibility stung more than he'd anticipated, but it also opened his eyes. From this angle, the hotel looked different. He noticed a frayed carpet near the service elevator, heard the staff lounge conversation about impossible schedules and broken promises, watched the delicate dance of workers try and maintain impossible standards with inadequate support. Drop a comment if you've ever felt invisible in your own workplace. You're not alone. And that's when he saw her. Alyssa Martinez stood behind the front desk, like a conductor managing a chaotic orchestra. 3 phone lines blinked urgently. A line of guests snaked toward the counter, several checking their watches with obvious irritation. Somewhere in the background, a child wailed, and festive music played almost mockingly over the speakers. She couldn't have been more than 30, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of too many double shifts. Her uniform was immaculate despite the chaos, her name tag slightly crooked. Alexander, Alex, positioned himself nearby, slowly polishing the brass handrail, watching. "I apologize for the wait, Mr. Chun," Alyssa said. Her voice warmed despite the pressure. "Let me get you checked in right away. I see you're celebrating your anniversary. Congratulations on 25 years. That's beautiful." The irritation melted from the man's face. "You remember from last year?" "Of course. You told me about renewing your vows in Central Park. Did you go through with it?" As she checked him in, Alex noticed her discreetly upgrading their room. A few keystrokes, no fanfare, just a quiet gift. The next guest was less kind. "This is unacceptable. I've been standing here for 10 minutes. Do you know how much I'm paying to stay here?" Alyssa never flinched. "You're absolutely right to be frustrated, sir. I'm so sorry for the wait. Let me personally ensure your room is perfect and have champagne sent up with our compliments. Would that help?" The man's anger deflated. "Well, yes, thank you." Over the next 2 hours, Alex watched Alyssa work miracles. When a frantic mother mentioned her daughter's birthday, Alyssa made a phone call during her break, then somehow produced a small cake from a nearby bakery. Paid for with her own money, Alex later learned. When an elderly couple struggled with their luggage, she left her post to help them herself rather than waiting for a bellhop. When the computer system crashed, she kept handwritten notes and personally followed up with every affected guest. She wasn't just doing her job. She was holding the entire operation together with nothing but compassion and sheer determination. Between tasks, Alex caught glimpses of her reality. She ate a granola bar standing up, her only meal during an 8-hour shift. She rubbed her temples when she thought no one was looking. She checked her phone during a brief lull, and her expression flickered with worry before she pocketed it and returned to her smile. Who's the unsung hero in your life? Share their story in the comments. They deserve to be celebrated. This woman was drowning, and she was still saving everyone else. Everything changed when Marcus Wellington stormed through the lobby doors. Marcus was exactly the type of guest Alexander usually courted: wealthy, influential, connected. He also had a reputation for being demanding and merciless when things didn't go his way. Alex recognized him immediately and felt his stomach tighten. "Where is your manager?" Marcus's voice cut through the lobby. "I've been trying to reach him for 3 hours. Alyssa stepped forward, her composure intact. "Mr. Wellington, I'm so sorry you've had trouble reaching us." Richard stepped out. "But I'm here to help. What can I do?" "What you can do is explain why my associate missed a crucial meeting, because your staff gave him the wrong conference room information. Do you have any idea what that meeting was worth?" The lobby went quiet. Other guests turned to watch. Alex gripped his mop handle, fighting every instinct to intervene. But Alyssa didn't crumble. "Mr. Wellington, let me pull up the reservation details right now." Her fingers flew across the keyboard. "I see the booking here. The confirmation email shows conference room B, as requested. However," she paused, studying the screen with a slight frown, "I'm seeing an override from management that changed it to room D without updating the confirmation. That's why your associate received conflicting information." Marcus leaned forward. "An override? From whom?" "Richard, our manager, sir. It appears there was a double booking, and rather than contacting you directly to resolve it, he moved your reservation and didn't update the system properly." Alex's jaw tightened. This was exactly the kind of mismanagement he'd suspected. Marcus's expression shifted from anger to consideration. "So this was your error?" "No, sir, but it happened under our roof, which makes it our responsibility. I'm going to personally ensure this doesn't happen again. Let me comp your entire stay and reserve our executive boardroom for your next visit. No charge, priority access, full catering. You have my word." She extended her hand. After a moment, Marcus shook it. "You just saved your hotel A very nasty review. What's your name? Alyssa Martinez. Well, Alyssa, someone should be looking after you instead of hiding behind you. The next morning, Alyssa received an unusual message. Mr. Hawthorne requested to see her in the executive suite. Her heart hammered. In 3 years of working at the hotel, she'd never met the owner. Nobody had. He was a legend, a ghost story whispered about during late shifts. Was she being fired? Had Marcus complained after all? She took the elevator to the top floor, hands trembling slightly as she knocked on the polished door. Come in. The office was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking snow-dusted Manhattan, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. And behind the desk sat a man she didn't immediately recognize. He looked familiar somehow. But, wait, the janitor, Alex. But different, clean-shaven, dressed in an expensive suit, watching her with those same observant eyes she'd noticed in the lobby. Please, sit down, Alyssa. Her knees felt weak. I don't understand. My name is Alexander Hawthorne. For the past 3 days, I've been working as a janitor in my own hotel. Nobody knew. Not Richard, not corporate, nobody. I needed to see the truth without filters or performances. The room tilted slightly. The owner, the billionaire, had been mopping floors beside her. I watched you, Alexander continued, his voice gentle. I saw how you treated every guest like family, how you solved problems that should never have been yours to solve, how you spent your own money to make a child's birthday special. I saw you hold this hotel together with nothing but heart while the person who should have been supporting you was busy covering his own mistakes. Tears pricked her eyes. I was just doing my job. No. Alexander leaned forward. You were doing everyone's job. You were being the leader this hotel desperately needed, which is why I'm offering you Richard's position. Effective immediately, I want you to manage this hotel. Alyssa couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. You've been invisible for too long. Alyssa, it's time someone finally saw you. Hit that like button if you believe good people deserve good things. Alyssa accepted the position through tears and disbelief that gradually transformed into fierce determination. Within a week, the hotel began changing from the inside out. She promoted 2 other overlooked staff members to supervisory roles. She implemented policies protecting employees from excessive overtime and created a direct feedback system, so no one's concerns would be buried again. Guest satisfaction scores climbed. The online reviews started shifting. But more than metrics, something intangible shifted. The energy in the lobby, the way staff carried themselves, the genuine warmth that returned to every interaction. Alexander watched it unfold with quiet satisfaction. His undercover experiment had revealed something he'd lost sight of while building his empire from the top floor. Real leadership isn't about corner offices and executive decisions. It's about seeing people, truly seeing them, and empowering them to be extraordinary. He'd been so far removed from the ground floor that he'd forgotten what made his first hotel successful. Back then, he knew every employee's name. He understood their struggles because he lived them too. Somewhere along the way, success had insulated him from the very heartbeat of his business. Alyssa reminded him that the people who keep the dream alive rarely stand in the spotlight. They're answering phones at midnight, mopping floors after double shifts, remembering anniversaries for guests who'll never remember them. They're the invisible architects of every good experience, every warm memory, every reason someone chooses to return. On Christmas Eve, exactly 1 week after Alexander's undercover shift began, he stood in that same lobby, watching Alyssa greet guests with her new title and the same genuine kindness she'd always shown. The only difference now was that she had support, resources, and recognition. She caught his eye across the crowded lobby and smiled. Not the practiced smile of an employee to a boss, but the grateful smile of someone who'd been drowning and finally found someone who noticed. Alexander smiled back. This was a Christmas miracle nobody expected. Not a last-minute rescue or dramatic gesture, but the simple act of seeing someone who'd been invisible all along and given the chance to rise. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step down from where you are and see the world from someone else's perspective. Alexander Hawthorne could have stayed in his penthouse, trusting reports and metrics, never knowing that his hotel's greatest asset was being overlooked every single day. But he chose humility. He chose truth. And in doing so, he didn't just save one woman's future. He rediscovered what made him successful in the first place: genuine human connection. This Christmas season, look around. Who are the invisible heroes in your world? The person who always shows up early, stays late, gives without expecting anything back? They deserve to be seen. Subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us what really matters. Share this video with someone who needs encouragement today. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if you could go undercover in your own life? Merry Christmas. And remember, kindness is always watching, even when you think nobody sees.